Hello everyone. I will be discussing the ammunition. Okay, let's talk about ammunition. Ammunition, it shall refer to loaded shell for rifles, muskets, carbines, shotguns, revolvers, and pistols from which a bullet, ball, shot, shell, or other missiles may be fired by means of gunpowder or other explosive. Okay, so the term, it also includes ammunition for air rifle. So technically, class, ammunition, it is a term used to describe a complete unfired unit. So when we say complete unfired unit, hindi pa naputok, no? Okay, so it consists of a bullet, nandyan si bullet, nandyan si primer, nandyan si cartridge case, nandyan pa si gunpowder. So that's technically an ammunition. Okay, the general term ammunition refers to metallic cartridges or shot shells in a shotgun. Shells kasi yan in a shotgun. Okay, a cartridge, that is a complete round of ammunition for a firearm, ha? Okay, so when we say ammo class, pwede din itong tawagin na ammo, no? Ammo, A-double-M-O, that is a shorthand way to say ammunition. So, meaning to say bullets, gunpowder, and other combat supplies. So, we can call that one as an ammo or an ammunition. Okay. So, next, let's talk about cartridge. Okay, so from the Latin word chart, so cartridge is derived from the Latin word chart, meaning paper, and the French word cartouche, meaning roll of paper. Okay, so the earliest small arms ammunition or cartridge in the 16th century consisted of a premature charge of powder that is wrapped in paper pa before. So again, when we say cartridge, it may be defined as a case, a capsule, or a shell, or a bag of metal, pasteboard, and the likes, no, containing explosive charge. Okay, meron siyang explosive charge, no? And in small arms and some cannon, the projectile to be fired. Okay, so there are several marks which may be found on cartridge cases. So we have here firing pin impression, breech face markings, chamber marks, extractor marks, shearing marks, ejector, striation, and magazine lips markings. Okay, so ito yung mga naiiwan na marking sa cartridge or in the bullet. Okay, what are the possible causes of those markings? Okay, so again, cartridge case are compared to fired standards from a firearm that gamit ni siya o comparison microscope. That's how we're going to compare the standards. The standards that those are, I'm referring to the sample, no? Okay, the fired cartridge or the cartridge case that is being analyzed in a laboratory by using a standard comparative microscope. Okay, we have that here, but we don't have monitor, so we cannot do that laboratory. We are just more on theorize this all, no? Okay, so again, standards are fixed, no, examined to determine what marks, if any, the firearm is consistently reproducing. Okay, even cartridge cases are then directly compared to the standards to see if they are two or also similarly marked. Okay, so let's start with firing pin impressions. Okay, so when we say firing pin impression, okay, unsa man ni nga klase nga impression. So kanini siyang makita ninyo nga indentation. Ang ga-create sa firing pin impression is, okay, again, it is created when the firing pin of a firearm strikes the primer. Okay, pag strike sa primer ang kanang tunga, no? Okay, let's say center fire cartridge case, no? Okay, or the rim of a rimfire cartridge case. Okay, so if the nose of the firing pin has manufacturing imperfection or damage, these potentially unique characteristics can be impressed into the metal of the primer or the rim of the cartridge case. Okay, so next we have here breech marks. Okay, the one that is I put breech face there. Okay, the one in blue. Okay, the surface of that blue, that's That's a breech. Okay, and the markings na malalagay dyan sa cartridge is, we call that as a breech marks. Okay, breech marks. Okay, that is the most common impressed action mark sa ating cartridge cases. Ito si breech marks. Okay, so most fired cartridge cases are identified as having been fired by a specific firearm, no? Through the identification of the breech marks. Okay, so very high pressure generated within a firearm when the cartridge case is discharged. So itong pressures na to, itong pressure force, no, it forced the bullet from the cartridge case and down the barrel at a very high velocities. Okay, so when a firearm is discharged, the shooter will feel the firearm jump rearward. Okay, yung rearward naman na yan ng firearm, yan yung tinatawag natin na recoil. Alright, so again, when we say, ano ba itong breech face in a firearm? Again, yan yung area around the firing pin, ha? The breech face, the area around the firing pin. Okay, around the firing pin, which is against the head of the cartridge or shot shell during the firing. Again, nagre-recall, no? We talk about recall a while ago. So again, pag sinabing recall, it is for the most caused by the cartridge case moving rearward, no? Okay, and again, it is caused by the cartridge case moving rearward as an opposite reaction to the pressures generated to the force of the bullet down the barrel. Okay, so when the head or base of the cartridge, again, when the head or the base of the cartridge case moves rearward, okay, it strikes. Okay, and that strikes, it is called the breech face of the firearm. Okay, again, the breech face, that is the area of the firearm that supports the head of the cartridge case, no, during the firing process. Okay, the breech face leaves markings, nag-iiwan yun ng marka, no, on the head of the cartridge case. As expanding gases push the cartridge case, okay, back against the breech face. Okay, again, when the head of a cartridge case slams against the breech face, the negative impression, meron tayong nakikreate na negative impression. Merong nakikreate na negative impression of those imperfection ng breech face, no? Yung nakastamp yan into either the primer of the cartridge case or the cartridge case itself. Okay, next we have here chamber marks. Okay, so that chamber marks, that is from the illustration, from the picture below, yung may mga horizontal na linya na blue. That's an example of a chambering marks, no? Okay, so chamber marks, the roughness in the chamber of a firearm, it can scratch the outer walls. Yan yung walls yan ng cartridge. So yung na-scratch na yan sa wall ng cartridge, that's what we call chamber. Okay, marka ng chamber. Okay, na naska-scratch siya in the outer walls of our cartridge case when loaded, no, and when it is being removed from the chamber. Okay, so most chamber marks, kadalasan nangyayari or it occurs after the cartridge is fired. Okay, again, cartridge cases expand, no, when fired pressing out against the walls of the chamber. Okay, when they are pulled out of the chamber, the sides of the cartridge, yung sa gilid niya, it can be scratched. At yung scratch na yan, na nasa gilid, yan yung tinatawag nating chamber marks. Okay, that's a side view of chamber marks, no? Okay, next, we have here extractor marks. Okay, saan ba ito makikita si extractor sa firearm? Okay, again, it is a part of the handgun itong si extractor, ha, that removes a cartridge case. Siya yung nagre-remove ng cartridge case, no? Fired or unfired, no? From the chamber. Again, siya yung nagre-remove ng cartridge case sa chamber. Okay, so yung extractor marks na yan, it is usually found in a striated form, no? These are those created by the extractor. Kaya tinatawag na extractor marks kasi yung nanggaling sa extractor, no? Sa karamihan mga auto-loading or repeating firearms, no? Again, the extractor, that is a small part sometimes resembling a hook Okay, mura siyang hook, no, that is used to remove a cartridge or cartridge case from the chamber of the firearm. Okay, so as the slide of the pistol moves to the rear, the extractor pulls the cartridge case along with it until it is ejected from the pistol. Okay, so again, the extractor may or may not leave an identifiable mark on the cartridge case. Okay, this is true if the cartridge is fired or simply hand-chambered and extracted without firing. Okay, yung sa gilid yun yung tinatawag na from that illustration there. That is an example of an ejector mark sa gilid. Okay. Okay, meron siyang, again, it is a somehow found in striated form, no? Somehow found in striated form. Merong striation. Okay, katulad niyan. Nagpo-form ng striation. Okay, so next we have here, again, extractor marks that is imparted into the cartridge case when the case is extracted from the barrel. Okay, pag natanggal. Okay, next, magkaiba yung extractor sa ejector ha. Ito yung ejector. Hindi ko wala na dito. Alright, so that is an ejector, no, yung may mataas na ano dyan. And yung extractor, yun yung nasa gilid. Okay, next we have here shear mark. Okay, when we say shear mark, it is the cutting of metal from the surface of a bullet. Okay, nakakat yung metal sa surface ng bullet due to cylinder misalignment pag revolver, no? Okay, so when a cartridge case is forced backwards from recoil, no, the primer embeds itself in the firing pin hole. Okay, so as the slide of the pistol starts to recoil, the barrel will drop slightly as the action opens. Okay, so the dropping barrel, it forces the cartridge case to move down slightly. And when this happens, the lower edge of the embedded primer is sheared downward and out of the firing pin hole. Okay, so next, we have here ejector marks. Okay, it is sometimes created when the cartridge or the cartridge cases are ejected from the action of a firearm. Okay, so ejector marks, it can be either striated, so isa pa itong parang striation form, no, katulad ng extractor. Okay, or impressed, no. Okay, but the impressed ejector marks not only can be used to identify a cartridge case as having passed through a firearm action, they can also be an indication that the cartridge cases was fired in the firearm. So, si ejector marks, it could only be reproduced when the cartridge cases were fired in the firearm and not by simply hand chambering, no, and injecting a live cartridge. Not just by that. It is actually fired, no, in the firearm. It is actually reproduced when the cartridge cases were fired in the firearm. Alright, so ejector marks, again, the extractor, it pulls the cartridge cases out of the firearm's chamber. Okay, so as the cartridge case is pulled to the rear, it will be struck somewhere on an opposing edge by a part as seen below, no? Okay, that is called yan, yung ejector. Okay, so the ejector that is designed to expel the cartridge case from the action of the firearm. Okay, so the resulting impact of the cartridge case with the ejector, it will cause another action mark that can be used as a means of identification as well. Okay, again, as the extractor pulls the case back, it strikes a hard protrusion or bump called the ejector, no, which caused the case to fling out of the weapon. While the extractor pulls, the ejector pushes. Okay, pull and push. Si extractor nagpo-push si ejector, and usually leaves marks on the very edge of the cartridge case rim. Alright, next, we have here Okay, yeah, that's an example of in a handgun, no? That is an example of an ejector. That's the face of the ejector. And the other, the down, okay, in the lower part, that is in the lower part of the picture, that is the extractor. Okay, next we have here striated action marks. Okay, so common din ito sa mga cartridge cases, no? These are common to cartridge cases that have passed through the action of an auto-loading or repeating firearm. Okay, so striation mark, it can be produced on a cartridge cases by contact with a number of different areas within the firearm. Okay, some of the more common striated action mark, it include yung lahat na minention natin kayo na those are mga striated action marks, no? Chamber mark, shear marks, firing pin, drag mark, extractor, blah, blah, blah. Okay, those are mga striated action marks. Okay, so striation, we have here striation left on surface. Okay, yan katulad yun ng image na yan, no? There is a striation. It is the inner surface of, pag sinabing striation, it is the inner surface of the barrel of a gun that leaves its striation markings on a bullet passing through it. Okay, next, firing pin drag marks. Okay, pag nakikita mo dyan, yung sa gitna na hit ng primer, meron pang isa dyan na nag-extend kasi nadadrag siya ng firing pin, no? Okay, yung extension na yan, that is what we call firing pin drag marks. Okay, so when the firing pin springs forward to strike, the primer of a cartridge, no, it may remain slightly forward. Okay, nagsaslide siya na pa-forward and nai-embed yung primer. Okay, certain barrels drop down slightly as recoil is forcing the action open. Okay, so the cartridge case drops with the barrel, causing the nose of the protruding firing pin to drag across the primer as it leaves the firing pin impression. Okay, so impressed action marks. Okay, these are mga impressed action marks, no? Na naproduce when a cartridge case is fired in a firearm. Okay, yung pinaka-common na impressed action marks, itong sa mga nabanggit ngayon, no? Those are pinaka-common yung firing pin impression, tsaka yung breech marks. Those are mga common na impressed action marks. Okay, yung firing pin impression pala, no, it can also be found on live cartridges, no? In some cases, the firing pin may miss the primer of a cartridge or fail to strike the primer of a cartridge or fail to strike the primer of a cartridge. Okay, so the cartridge, it may also misfire. Nagmi-misfire din siya due to a contaminated kaya or deteriorated na yung primer compound. Okay, so for whatever reason, the result will be the presence of a firing pin impression on the cartridge case of a live cartridge. Okay, so this could be significant, no, if the cartridge is found at the scene or found at the suspect's house. Okay, so we have here types of cartridge according to rim. We have here rim type, semi-rim type, rimless type, and rebated type. So that is an example of a rim type. Okay, pag sinabi nating rim type, yung diameter ng rim niya mas malaki. Okay, yung mas malaki siya kaysa sa body ng cartridge case. So nanubra. Okay, kanang nanubra diha sa ubos, that is what we call the rim type. Again, pag sinabing rim type, yung diameter ng rim, mas malaki siya kaysa sa diameter ng body ng cartridge case. That's the rim type. Okay, pag sinabi nating rimless type, okay, equal lang. Okay, equal lang. Equal lang yung body, equal lang yung cartridge case, no? The diameter is equal with the diameter of the body. Pareho lang sila ng diameter sa cartridge case. Okay, pag sinabi nating semi-rim type, okay, semi-rim type. So, the diameter of the rim naman, okay, the diameter of the rim is slightly Slightly lang, konting-konti lang yung kaibahan, no? Yung kalaki, no? The diameter of the rim is slightly greater than the diameter of the body of the cartridge case. Konting-konti lang yung lamang ng sa baba ng diameter ng cartridge case sa body ng sa body ng cartridge case. Okay, next we have here rebated type. Okay, so when we say rebated type, yung diameter ng rim, smaller. Mas maliit siya, yung diameter ng rim, smaller, kesa sa body ng cartridge case. Ano ba itong body? Itong malaking, the larger part of the cartridge, ha? That's the body. Okay, the largest. Okay, so yung rim rebated, no, the diameter of the rim is mas maliit siya. No, is smaller than the body of the cartridge case. Hindi sila pantay. Hindi katulad ng rimless. Okay, hindi katulad ng rimless na equal lang yung body tsaka yung diameter. Okay, equal lang yung body at tsaka yung cartridge case. Okay, next we have here the belted. Okay, belted type. Okay, so yung belted type naman, those rebated. Are we done with the belted type? Okay, belted. Okay, next we have here belted type. Okay, so when we say belted type, those where there is a protruding metal. Okay, yan yung pinaka-kakaiba sa lahat ng cartridge case, no? There is a protruding metal around the body. Wag na siya yung patuyukan, no, of the cartridge, no? Dool sa iyahang rim. Okay, again, pag sinabing belted type, meron siyang protruding metal around the body of the cartridge case. Okay, near the rim. Okay, so those are those. Yan lang muna. The next. Okay, until the next discussion. Okay, you better study this one.